Welcome to A Fine Human, a podcast by yours truly, Alexander Fyfe, the CEO and co-founder of a company called Dame. We sling vibes. And here on this podcast, we're going to be slinging vibes with amazing human beings and talking about everything from courage, curiosity, discomfort, and of course, sex. This is A Fine Human. Hi, and welcome back to another episode of A Fine Human. Today, I have Olivia Plath, and we're going to be talking all things sex / not sex, purity culture. So it's like opposite of sex in some way, but I still think that that is sex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the lack thereof.
Or the lack thereof. So, well, actually, before I like just jump in and start asking you some questions, who are you?
I am an ex-fundy kid, grew up fundamental religious.
Thank you.
Yeah. I say that term thinking a lot of people know what it means because I think that it is a relevant topic in today's, especially political scape. But for people who don't know, I grew up fundamental Christian.
Yeah.
And
I feel like I'm going to do this a lot. Like, I'm a New York Jew. I don't even really know to me, I'm like, a lot of them, it's like, oh, honestly, it's even just kind of very religious or not very religious. Mm-hmm. Sometimes is how I kind of see the world versus even like Jewish versus Muslim versus like within Judaism, right? We have Hasidic Jews who are very religious. How religious is fundamental?
Fundamental Christians are, on the scale of Christianity, the most religious you could be.
It's like just top.
It's top. It's like cult. Full
Is
cult.
it like, did you have to wear specific clothing?
Yeah.
Real?
I had to wear long skirts, could never wear pants. If you wore a skirt that came up to your knee, one, it had to hit below your knee, and two, you had to have like leggings on underneath or something like that. Couldn't really show skin, couldn't show a figure at all for a woman. My dad went as far to say like collarbones and shoulders were tempting to men, so you had to cover those as well. Couldn't cut my hair for a long time. Couldn't wear nail polish, couldn't curl my hair. Like literally none of these things. It was a very strict upbringing.
Were you
all
homeschooled?
In the name of religion. I was homeschooled, yeah.
Is that's common in?
Yeah, there's this huge distrust of government and science and any kind of group think. Even though they are the ultimate group think. Yes. So yeah, they would never trust to send kids to school.
Okay, and I feel like I cut you off on who Olivia is. So you're ex-fundy, which we now know what that means.
So I'm an ex-fundy kid that got thrust into reality TV and the public spotlight when I was 20 years old and got married, and I had no freaking clue. I
feel like there was 4 wild things you just said there, which was like, to me, I heard, well, not really, I mean, thrust into reality, but you were 20.
I was 20, yeah.
And you were married.
Yeah, I got married when I was 20.
That's common? That's
a standard age. I mean, girls who grow up in fundamental Christianity are told that they are created and born to be a wife and mother, and that is the ultimate calling for a woman. And college was not an option when I graduated high school. So I spent like 2 years kind of being like, okay, who am I going to marry? Like, how's this going to work out?
Boys?
Yeah, my 2 older brothers went to college.
Okay. I don't know why I was like hoping it wasn't. You know what I mean?
Right, you were hoping it wasn't sexist.
Right, I was hoping it wasn't sexist and was just anti,
Yeah.
I don't know why I do that. I always like, like my hope is very toxic.
For fundamental Christianity, like assume the worst and I can make it better. And I'll be like, oh, but actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I bet you there's a lot that is really beautiful.
There are beautiful aspects of my childhood.
Okay.
Like I grew up on a farm and I grew up very connected to nature and I knew where my food came from. And I think that I had somewhat of an ethical understanding of taking care of animals and taking care of the earth and, that symbiotic relationship. That was the good part of my childhood. I definitely miss sometimes being on the farm.
Yeah, that does sound really nice and like something I want for my daughter, and I always say for my daughter, I have more than one kid. Sorry, Iggy.
Hey, it's just Uno reverse.
Uno reverse.
The girls one.
The girls. I definitely think of like for her to get her hands in dirt more, especially as like a New York City kid.
Yeah.
And then what was your sex education?
Oh, I actually realized that could have been anything, but that was 0.
Something else. But because I kind of feel like with something that I find like in like Don't Say Gay, or this idea like, oh, we can't teach LGBT to kids, is like, well, you are teaching heterosexual, like you're teaching sexuality. You were probably taught something about sex.
So I think that my parents never. The interesting thing about fundamental Christianity is that so many of these conversations that are had where kids are shaped and molded and told what to believe doesn't happen between parent and child. It happens between cult leaders and cult members. And so there is a huge aspect of this groupthink. So my parents never really sat me down and talked to me about sex or anything, but they did take me to conferences where the conference teachers and leaders talked about it.
Not church is conference church? Is that like a...
Yeah, well, so
I'm imagining, like when I think of a conference, I'm thinking like name tags and...
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So I went to like a home church version that first had a series of like elders and a pastor, and then my dad became the pastor of it.
Okay.
And that was like 100 people that we met on Sundays. But when you're in this cult and you're so isolated from the world, you're always thinking, how do I find other people who think like me?
Yeah.
So they'll hold conferences, and my parents would go to them occasionally, and we would be with ranging from like hundreds to thousands of the people that believed the same way that my family did. And the hope was also that this is where our kids are going to meet their spouse.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to meet them anywhere else. And that is where I met my ex-husband, was at one of the conferences.
Yeah. We do that too in Judaism.
Yeah.
It's a little, so then that is where you got messaging around sex or not having sex? Or?
Yeah. When I look back at what I was told, the clearest picture that I see is I was pretty much told sex is for men, only men enjoy it, but it is women's job to give it. And I remember going to premarital counseling before I got married, and I remember the pastor telling me, like, you're not going to want to do this, but it's your job to, because if you don't, you're responsible for him having an affair.
Do you think your pastor feels pretty much like they're rape? Pastors get married? Do pastors get married?
Yeah,
your
pastors
dad was a
get
pastor.
married, yeah.
That's like where I'm at, right?
Yeah, and interestingly enough, several of the big name cult leaders and pastors and teachers that I listened to growing up have since come out with scandals of sexual assault and molestation and all these other things.
I do think it's so common, and not just in, like any kind of cult or guru leaders tend to we look back at a lot of them. Who I love, he wrote like Cutting Through Spiritual Material. He wrote these books that like really got me into Buddhism. He married a 16-year-old.
Yeah. You know what I think? In these environments where the power dynamic is that men have control, and men want control, I think that you would be hard-pressed to find an environment like that where there is not some kind of physical sexual control. Because at the end of the day, that's the ultimate violation, right? Like, controlling someone's mind is horrible, but it also is what it is. Controlling someone's body, especially a young woman, like underage, or even just women in general, and like that's the ultimate violation, I think, is to control their body. Yeah. It's the one thing that you have that's like physically yours that can be taken from you. Also, why I would rate
is also so. They're both so.
But also I think that's why even looking at crimes, I look at rape as a worse crime than murder. Because murder, there can be so many reasons why somebody would, either in self-protection or whatever. Rape, there's never anything but one motive.
This is the weirdest. I have not really considered which ones were. I agree, though. I think I would say rape is worse.
There's
than
no
murder.
other motive for rape but to violate someone and to control and take from them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that when you're taking someone's life, you're taking their life.
But it could be for so many different reasons.
I just also think that, like, I don't know, like, violence is violence. When you tie violence and sex, which can be that's also like incredibly powerful and beautiful thing.
Yeah.
To take that and drag it down. Also, oftentimes, though not all the times, like, rape they're both so terrible.
Yeah.
They're both really shitty.
Yeah. But I think one gives me pause more than another, right? If I hear someone being murdered, I'm like, was it in self-defense? Was it in protection of someone else? Was it for this? Was it for that?
There's never an excuse.
An excuse for it. There's no other reason but to have ultimate control and violation of somebody.
I think that is okay. Wow. I'm going to just push on that because this is a really fun mental, I'm enjoying it. So I was sexually assaulted, and for a long time, and in my case, this was not the case, and I can't believe I convinced myself of this, was that this person who actually was Ron Jeremy, I was sexually assaulted by Ron Jeremy, and I thought that I was maybe not clear enough in my nose, and that they, because of who they were, maybe that was really what their life was like. And therefore, because I wasn't clear enough in my no, maybe they, even though I had been raped, they didn't necessarily have that intent. Turns out they were doing it to tons and tons and tons of women, and they clearly knew what they were doing. And I cannot believe the things that I convinced myself of in that. But I do wonder, since women are often taught to care about someone else's opinion or feelings, emotional state, especially a man's, over their own, that if there is some boy out there who has done something terrible and genuinely had no idea, and I would still say that if that, so there's there's something there.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's, I don't know if you could rape somebody and have no idea and not the intention of raping them. Mm-hmm. Maybe. Either way.
Also, as much as women are taught to acquiesce and to care about the other person, I think in toxic masculinity, which happens so much in the patriarchy, men are taught to not read body language and care and pay attention to cues and literally fucking ask.
They're just not taught that at all.
So I look at this equation of like, okay, if there was a gray area, is that not also on him?
I think it's still, but also on society, right? If you're getting the language, if you're a fundy kid and you're being told your wife isn't going to like it.
Yeah. That's also why I say the patriarchy harms everybody.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. I also speaking of that body language part too, something that I see changing in sex education now is this idea that consent needs to be verbal. I think verbal is clear. For some reason, it also, I think understanding nonverbal cues is something that we need to educate on and learn about, because sometimes people freeze and people fawn.
Yeah.
You mean like they just want to please you, but they're really scared. We need to teach everybody not just about how to say yes or no, but also how to read body language and understand that. And that is a part of the conversation.
And I think a lot of women can, because it's expected of us.
I agree.
And this is something I've even discovered in therapy as I've kind of deconstructed and left fundamental religion, is that I have had a really hard time finding out what I believe and where I stand and all of these things, because my whole life I was taught to pay attention to everyone else. I was taught to walk on eggshells and read body language and be like, oh, that person's not okay from across the room. And that also is because my parents had an unhealthy relationship where they fought a lot. And so growing up, I was kind of on eggshells as a kid. But being a girl, I was expected to read social cues and pay attention to those things, and my brothers never were. And that's very clear as an adult, where I struggle with anxiety, where I overanalyze everything, leaving an event or a party, and my brothers are very unempathetic people.
How old are you now?
27.
You're so young.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel old, but that's just life experiences.
Yeah. No, and also 27's, you've been grown for a little bit. And you're right. You're divorced. Are you divorced? Did you sign? That's got to make you feel growner.
Especially when I was 25. And even though paperwork hadn't been finalized, I was, we were not together anymore. So even telling people at 25, I'm divorced. As a 25-year-old, they're like, what?
Yeah.
Most people even haven't been married at that point.
Life is hard. Did you kind of said you were thrust onto reality TV show?
Yeah.
What was your consent to be on the show like?
So I was 19 when we were engaged and we were planning the wedding. And my ex-mother-in-law really wanted a show about her family to kind of like show off her parenting and her amazing family and look at my kids. There's such a good example of how my parenting has worked. And she wanted a show with ABC and had a contact with them, and they'd like been scouted for a show. And ABC reached out to me because they knew that I was engaged to the oldest son. And they were like, we have some questions. Could you come into the studio in New York and like just talk us through this? And they liked the idea of this, family full of musical kids who got along, but they were apprehensive about the conservatism and like Christian nationalism and all of that. And so when I answered all their questions honestly, they pulled out from the show, and they're like, we don't really want to make a show about all this fundamental stuff. That's kind of not what we're going for.
And you're like into fundamental, like you're into it at that time.
Well, halfway. I think that when it comes to deconstruction, there's so many layers to deconstruction, and I had gotten past like the first layer or two.
Okay.
I was dressing different and listening to different music.
I was about to say, because I feel like the clips I did, like from day one on the show, you're not wearing the things that we were just talking about. So like day one, you
see me on the reality show, and like I had chopped my hair pretty shortly after getting married. I was wearing shorts. Like I felt pretty good. The deconstruction that's way harder is everything inside. Yeah. And the foundation for how you see the world, and that took me several more years. So I was kind of like in an in-between place.
Are the Plaths fundamental?
Because they're in some ways they were. I think a lot of it wasn't about adhering to the fundamental faith as much as it was Kim wanted an environment where she could control her kids and her husband and her family.
And just for like the Plaths, it was called the Plathville. Like that's the show. It's about the Plath family. Kim is the mom.
Yeah. So anyways, ABC pulls out, right?
Yeah.
TLC approaches her.
Yeah.
And they ask about doing a show, and she was mad at me for ABC pulling out. So she didn't tell me that they wanted to shoot a pilot, and she invited them to shoot my wedding as a pilot for the show without asking, and signed a deal where she got the check for it.
Oh my gosh. And everybody who thinks they have a bad mother-in-law. That is
how it started.
Which is like immediately, okay, so that is how it started.
Yeah. So they they show up, they shoot my wedding. It's a pilot for a show. We were supposed to go on a honeymoon, but Hurricane Michael had hit, and the beach was washed away. We were going to go. So we had like 3 days on a honeymoon, come back home, and she's right there with paperwork. And she's like, I need you to sign this paperwork. And I was sleep deprived and living in a new state 800 miles away from everyone. Like I was so overwhelmed, and I was like, can I take this home and read it? And she was like, no, you remember how they shot your wedding? This is just paperwork saying that they can use that footage to like do a pilot and everything. And I was like,
is that what it was?
No. And I was like, well, can I take it home and read it? And she was like, I already read it for you. It's very streamlined and simple. It's this. And I felt very pressured because I grew up in an environment where you respect your elders and you say yes, and like you obey. And so in that moment when she kept pressuring me, she's like, I have to have this done today. I was just like, okay, fine. And I signed it. And the original contract that she had worked out, everybody got paid but me. I was an extra for season 1.
You were not an extra.
Even though they used my wedding as the promo for the show to pitch it. And I was in every single episode.
Yeah.
But the network got away with not paying me because that's how she negotiated it.
So
I was thrust into reality TV.
What about how many seasons were you on?
7. For season 2.
Does this show still exist?
Yes.
They're still currently taping, even though so much has been uncovered about the abuse that you experienced from numerous members of this family.
Yeah.
And not just you, too. I feel like...
No, not just me.
You. There's been other... It's just really interesting. It's just interesting because I feel like TLC is, in some ways, I think it actually really is on brand. It's so on brand because they are maybe, I guess, also really trying to push this narrative that they know is that narrative.
Yes, I think that
Like,
if you look at the world today, the political scope today, I think that it shows how conservative Christian values have been creeping their way into media for a very long time and slowly warming us all up and getting us accustomed to having these values permeate every aspect of our society. I think there's a reason why politics are the way they are today. It didn't happen overnight.
No.
For TLC, like specifically, I reached out to them. I filed a report. I reported everything. I asked for an investigation of everything. They conducted an internal investigation and dismissed it all.
And again, I think like on the one hand, it seems like, wow, they should take this show down because it's clearly the antithesis of their values. But the more I realize, like, it's kind of exactly what you're saying, which is actually, no, this is their values. Mm-hmm. Their values are that is an okay world.
And this is not the first show like that. There's been multiple shows on TLC. If you look at the Willis clan, where the father was sexually molesting several of his daughters, and that was a show that was aired on TV as a wholesome family.
And where are those daughters now? Or do they, like what I think I imagine about your story, and I don't know if this is true, is that being on reality TV and having access to the internet also really helped.
It did, for sure.
I would imagine women were reaching out to you and saying, hey, I've had this, whatever, getting some support.
I always tell people that even though I did not make the conscious, educated choice to be on reality TV, and in many ways, I was bullied into it by my ex-mother-in-law. There's so much good that came of that experience.
Yeah.
Whether it was me deconstructing faster because I was exposed to so many different worldviews. I think for a while it was really helpful to have the public mirror put back on me. Mm-hmm. My therapist would probably disagree with me on this.
That's like literally what I always think I would really get out of being on reality.
Yeah. I would see people comment on my behavior and I would say, oh, I never thought about it that way. Right. I felt so justified in doing this, but they're saying that I was in the wrong. And I mean, I read so many comments being like, she's narcissistic and she's BPD and she's this and she's that. And my therapist would say that it was really bad for me to take that all to heart. But I think that if you want to find a golden lining, there was some good to that of reflecting on my own behavior and kind of having it mirrored back to me and being able to say, oh, wow, I don't want to be like this.
And I would imagine also too what your therapist, it's like, it's hard to know what to take to heart and to what to just leave at the door.
Yeah, for sure.
Because obviously if you took every single thing that everybody said to heart.
And I did for a while and my mental health suffered and I was depressed.
That sounds really, really hard. That's tough.
Yeah. I think it's like weeding through that.
Were there any other, so do you think there was any, I think that so many people watching you deconstruct was probably another huge benefit to the world.
It gave me community as well. Because when you leave fundamental religion, you lose your family, you lose your church, you lose your community, you lose everything. Deconstructing publicly brought me other people in the same space, going through the same thing, and it kind of gave me community, which I honestly think got me through the experience.
And don't you think there were other girls who, maybe not even just girls, other people who were watching you and being like, wait, this does seem wrong. Mm-hmm. This, like maybe my world, them starting to deconstruct, which I do think it's so interesting. I'm like, I think that that's good. Like I wouldn't want anybody being raised in a world that is that abusive. I don't know why I'm thinking that's weird. Like if people are happy, like I don't like to tell people how to live their lives, like if you're a fundamental Christian and you're happy in it and you're not experiencing abuse, I guess that's great.
It's something I've really struggled with because being raised in fundamental Christianity and knowing that fundamental Christianity and Christian nationalism are best buds and go hand in hand. Yeah. And you really can't have one.
Can you even do one or the
I don't
other?
think you can have one. I don't think you can have fundamental Christianity without Christian nationalism.
There's no Okay.
Because being raised in fundamental Christianity, we were told our way is the only right way of living, and it is our job to convert everyone to live like us. And there's something called dominion theory, which is literally my parents would say, and I heard this said everywhere around me growing up. Muslims are having all of these kids, so Christians need to have as many kids as Muslims so that Muslims don't take us over. Christians need to have dominion of everything. And it was this idea that like Christians need to be lawyers and politicians and judges, and we need to stack the courts and all of these things, exactly what's happening now, to make sure that Christianity is the main religion. And so I look at even our political scope now and I'm like, what? This is literally what they always said they were going to do.
Yeah.
I don't think you can have Christian fundamentalism without Christian nationalism. There cannot be a separation of church and state if you want your religion to control everyone.
And also that is a conservative state. Like it is that there's like no room for, I think there's a lot of people who are deeply religious and liberal.
Yes.
Right? Because Jesus was like pretty into people being kind.
A socialist.
He was definitely a socialist. But that doesn't seem to be the way it usually ever shakes out. So interesting. Where
I've kind of landed with religion is that I think that while it doesn't work for me, I understand that it brings so much structure and safety and comfort and happiness to some people. I disagree with organized religion in the sense that it controls any politics, any party, anything like that. If somebody wants to have a personal faith of any kind for any God, I don't care. As long as they're not imposing that on others. If it makes them happy, I don't really care.
I don't know what my favorite one is, I think, is the Unitarian church, where like okay, so first of all, again, I'm not an expert, but I'm pretty sure that when they turn 13 or become of age, they are taught all of the religions. Obviously, it is predominantly grounded in Christianity, or that's where it first started. And then you redefine your own creed, like your own, and I was like, oh, I like that's cool. Like within their organization, they have somehow figured out a way of having flexibility and encouraging like an individual path that is expansive. I'm like, okay, because I think about this with kids now. Like I have kids. I'm Jewish, which is a really interesting religion, even though I'm sure you can understand this too, where it's not just your religion, it's like your culture and it is a lot more than that. And like how what I want for them, which is mostly just to be exposed to a lot of different options, and not have an overemphasis on it as a positive or negative.
It's actually very interesting because of any religion in the world, fundamental Christians align themselves with Judaism to the point.
So interesting.
To a certain point. Like I grew up celebrating Passover.
Oh, cool.
I'm not Jewish, but it
makes sense. I mean, it's like I've always been like, what the Old Testament's supposed to be the foundation, right? So.
And it was very much like, okay, so if we're looking at the Bible as this authority on life and history, the Jews are God's chosen people. Christians, there's a verse in the New Testament that says Jew and Gentile alike. Like now you are all basically God's children. And so fundamental Christians are like, yeah, so we're right there with the Jews. Like we're all chosen people now. So I grew up celebrating Passover. Yeah, like celebrating Passover and things like that. And there's a very strong tie there of any other religion. So even you talking about like your experience growing up Jewish, I'm like, even though I didn't grow up Jewish, I still relate to some of those things.
Yeah. Yeah. Jesus was a Palestinian Jew.
Yeah.
Which I think is like,
it'd
be cool if everybody could remember that. I would like that.
They won't.
Now I'm sad. So sad. Okay. So were you given like education around like a common thing I've heard in purity culture is like, hold the flower and then crush the flower. Yes, it's real.
It's real. My dad's okay.
First of all, can you tell what is the flower thing?
Okay, I think this is understood far beyond even just fundamental Christianity or purity culture. Is that a woman is like a flower And if you have sex outside of marriage, you're like crumpling up the flour. And
But then-
you
but
can
then-
never
but
make
you
it, you can
don't-
never make it perfect and whole again. Like you are damaged goods, basically.
Question.
Yeah.
What about after you get married and have your sex? Like then, but isn't it still crumpling?
A ring changes everything.
And ring changes everything. You
Yeah.
can't crumple flour anymore.
No, the other two things that my dad would always say, and I so wish I'd had the wherewithal to combat this as a kid. My dad would always be like, when you buy a cow, you don't milk it first.
Yeah.
To like see how much milk it makes.
But
Like you
else
buy the
does,
cow.
right? It's not how.
But I was also like, that's not true, because if there was a cow that didn't produce a lot of milk and that's why you have this farm animal, you wouldn't keep it.
Yeah, like you should know. You should milk the cow.
Like
at least
you want to know
one
the animal's
time.
pedigree before you have it.
So like you
Also-
actually might know. Like if you were to go buy a cow,
Yeah.
would you like just check to see if it's producing milk?
You wouldn't, but if you milked it and then you didn't get enough out of it, you would either butcher it, resell it, trade it, whatever it is, right?
You'd resell it and like not say anything. You'd be like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
that's what they did.
But also, so
They
I'm-
should just. I'm gonna go ahead and maybe they should just milk the cow before
maybe
they buy
they should.
it. Maybe they
also,
should.
like, I'm a cow now.
You're a cow now. Well, you want to know what will really make when you have kids, you will also in some ways realize you are actually
a cow.
in some way. But you're also very much not a cow.
Yeah.
You're not a cow. Humans are not cows.
The other example my dad would use is a piece of bubble gum. He's like, right, like if you're a piece of bubble gum and then someone chews it, you can't unchew it. You can never go back to the original state. Like you are now just a piece of chewed gum. The thing is, all of these analogies are so dehumanizing to women.
I don't understand why they're not applicable to men too. How come a man isn't also?
No, because the thing is, like in fundamental Christianity, when it comes to the equation of, first of all, there's only men and women in the equation of sex in fundamental Christianity. And men don't have to take the same accountability women do, because women are seen as the temptress. Mm-hmm. Women are seen as the seductive ones. We see this even in...
They're the moral gatekeepers in all
yes,
societies.
But we also see this in biblical stories where women like Jezebel was known as a seductress, and the men who fell to that were never the ones held accountable.
Right.
What about Bathsheba bathing on the roof? Like that was her fault because she bathed in a place where she could be seen. Like all of like women.
That's like her story. I'm not like really Jewish, you know what I mean? I'm like a little Jew. I'm like very Jewish, and I don't know anything. I just read The Red Tent.
Yeah.
I feel like this is like the third time I've talked about it on the podcast whenever I read a book. But it's also because The Red Tent is so about women and sexuality and femininity. I do want to hear about your new life. I want to know more too about like just what has it been like on the other side of this show and of that world? What is it like stepping out into society now?
Mm-hmm. I think when it comes to talking about purity culture and sex, a lot of people want to say like, well, what is it like on this side of things? Like, have you healed from purity culture? And I think it's so...
Like as if it's binary too. Like I'm really, you know...
And also as if it's a one issue thing. Like I didn't realize how much purity culture messed me up in so many aspects of my life, not just sex. Granted, I did not have a healthy, good sex life in my first marriage. When I thought about dating again, I felt so overwhelmed. And I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, all I know how to do is make sure he's happy, because that's what I was told my job was. And I had no idea what I liked. I had no idea what I wanted, none of these things. And I frankly felt like it didn't matter, which is something I'm still struggling with. And I've talked about this. I went and saw a sex therapist for a little bit because I was like, I feel like this should be a bigger experience for me than it is, but also I'm happy if he's happy. And like, I don't know if that's just so ingrained in me.
But you genuinely feel you're happy if he's happy.
So much of the time, yeah.
I don't think that there's anything inherently wrong with that. It just can't be everything.
Yeah.
Like, do you, and again, if you don't...
And that's something that I've been working on, is finding out what I like and being brave enough to voice it, even if it feels like I'm asking for too much or being a nuisance. And I have to rewire that in my brain of like, this is a experience between two people.
I want to tell you, as somebody who was like trying to be Jezebel growing up, like legit, like even as like this like I thought sexuality was cool. I thought Samantha on Sex and the City was clearly the one to be, which I mean, that was also just true. Like that's a true statement.
You haven't changed your mind.
Yeah,
on
I
that.
have not changed my mind on that. To me, my understanding of how to be sexual is still to please them.
Well, it's also society in general.
Yeah.
It's how we as women are ingrained is to the male gaze.
Yeah.
How we dress, how we express ourselves, all of these things. And if you deviate from that, you're seen as like angry or all these things. And honestly, also one thing I've realized with purity culture is that it didn't affect just the intimate part of my life. It affected literally how I express myself, like we were just saying. So when it comes to like dress or fashion or dance and movement and all of these things, because I was taught from a young age to assign a sexual value to any of these things.
And you weren't allowed to dance growing up.
I was not allowed to dance. Because moving, like as a woman, moving your body in that way is sensual and it's tempting.
It is. Well, I don't know if it's tempting, but it is. I think dance is such, I mean, not just sensual, or sensual in beyond just erotic and sex, but like, you know, like we're sensing, like in that sense, it is. But so is singing.
Yeah.
And you were allowed to sing?
I was allowed to sing like Christian music, church music, bluegrass.
God, like, yeah, but like
nothing with drums. Nothing with drums. No.
You could dance to bluegrass. I've danced to bluegrass.
You can get down.
You can get down to bluegrass. And I do feel like it's so interesting, like to feel to sing and to feel the voice of God like coming out of you, which is like I think a feeling people have. It's so sexual. To me, it's so sensual. It's so to be filled with your, like,
you're
power.
expressing yourself, and your sexuality, your sensuality is power.
It's so it's so powerful.
Yeah. When I was a teenager, my parents loosened up on some of the dance stuff, and we were allowed to dance, but only like country line dancing. That
is not as sexy.
Nothing when you're like touching somebody else. You could hold a boy's hand if you were like doing like the snowball, reel waltz, whatever. But even so, I remember my mom always telling me, like, you cannot make eye contact with a man for more than 2 to 3 seconds, or you're leading him on. You can't hold hands longer than like you have to in a dance, or you're leading him on.
Can I be honest? So or not. Like, it's so interesting because like I was never given any education around eye contact at all. So it's like, you know, when I was like, you got zero sex education. That is like that is sex education. And while I think that was wrong, you're not leading a man on by making eye contact with them for too long. That is obviously the wrong information. But I do feel like it's even cool that that there's something in nonverbal, like, okay, because eye contact can be sexual.
It can. And this is like when I struggle with, did you talk about sex growing up? I'm like, my parents never talked about
the answer is no. Like,
the
it wasn't
anatomy
about
of
sex.
but everything else was
you
talked
got
about.
so much implicit information,
and like,
too.
Every single thing that I did was scrutinized in a way of like, you can't move that way again. You can't do that. My mom would literally pull me aside and be like, you're defrauding one of the boys at church because I noticed that you were laughing too much talking to him. Like everything was so micromanaged, but there was no talking about sex. That was such a dirty topic.
But like all of those are about your sexual power.
Yeah.
Like the implicit messaging there is still like, shut it down, shut it down, shut it down.
All of those things directly informed my uncomfortability in my own body and sensuality.
And in your expression of self, your ability to laugh.
Yeah.
Your ability to laugh. I think that is such, like I'm, you know, a really shitty example of all the way sex matters outside of just actual sex. Like if we are telling people, oh my God, you cannot shut down your laugh is like the saddest thing. I'm so sorry that your mom told you to laugh less. Oh my God, I'm gonna cry. I think
more than trying to overcome the hangups I have in intimacy and sex, recovering from purity culture, it's more, okay, I want to know how to express myself as a human first.
You seem so clear
now.
now.
I want to make sure that I am in tune with my own body, because I am more than just a sexual being. I'm a sensual being, which involves singing and dance and movement and expression of self. And before I
smelling the roses,
like I want to become comfortable and get to know myself in that way before I harp just on like, well, but my sex life. Because I think that the more comfortable I am in my own body and knowing what I want and what I desire out of life and who I want to present myself as being, the more I'll become comfortable with everything across the spectrum. It's a much bigger picture to me of what purity culture did and what I have to recover from that.
Yeah. I mean, I really like appreciate you telling that story, because I do think so often when I'm trying to get people to understand that what I do is like, yes, it's so fun and silly, ha 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 ha. It's also really important and valuable in the world. And I find that people don't really get it, and so I start telling them the negatives. Like, you know, sex is often a part of our biggest trauma. Like if we're not talking about sex and we're letting sex become harmful, like that's really terrible, right?
And like that harm grows. After getting divorced, I realized I didn't know my own body at all.
Did you ever, you definitely didn't masturbate growing up.
I actually did. However, I was recently reading one of my diaries. Oh my God.
Oh, I would kill you in the diary.
I had this thought when I discovered self-pleasure. I had this thought of like, okay, well, if this is not supposed to be enjoyable for women, and I'm enjoying it, I might somehow be an anomaly, and I probably have a very limited like number of orgasms. I didn't even know the word orgasm, but I was like, okay, I probably have a very limited number of these. And if I keep doing this, I was a teenager. I was like, if I keep doing this so much now, what if I run out of them by the time I get married? And then I was like, what if that's a sign of your virginity? Like if you have none left, they'll know that like you were doing something. And then I was like, but I kind of like it, so I think I should continue, and I'll just like suck up and deal with the consequences later. I was so ill-informed about all of this because no one talked to me.
Wow.
I couldn't believe I thought this when I was looking back at my diary recently, and I was like, yeah, I really did think that I like should enjoy it while I had it, because it was only a couple years and I was going to get rid of them all.
Oh my God. It's not funny, but it is also pretty funny.
Yeah.
I also just think it's like pretty amazing and cool and powerful and telling. And I think godly that you're able to figure it out on your own, right? Like to me, if anything, like, so you never, did anybody tell you to touch yourself? Just figured
it out in the shower.
Like to me, that is like something inside of us, which I guess in Christianity, it's like a lot of those instincts we're supposed to ignore because they're bad and our bodies are dirty.
Yeah.
And to me, I'm just like, to feel intuitively drawn to something feels like the pull of spirit or something like that.
I literally asked my older sister, I was like, come here and like try this in the shower on yourself and tell me how it feels. Cause I didn't have any words for it. I didn't really know what this experience was. And she was like, yeah, nothing. And I was like, okay, so something's wrong with me, but I kind of like it. I was so ill-informed.
Well, but I'm happy you were self-discovering.
You know, that's the theme of my life, honestly. I think every space I've come into that I've been told to exist this way, I've always said, but why?
I wonder if, and by like, because you keep on like, you know, you talk about getting to know yourself and getting to know your desires. And reading you is knowing yourself. You haven't just checked in with yourself throughout this, you've checked in with me. You know, you were like, do you need a second? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I wonder if in the, like, you've gotten to go through this really young and get to like deconstruct and rebuild. And in some ways, I think a lot of people never experience that. A lot of people, I don't know. It's so weird. I'm just like the shittiness of it all got you to get to a place where you're like, wait, I don't really know anything. I need to learn. Because the truth is, I think a lot of people don't ever learn. And nothing ever pushes them to either, because they're not in a terrible situation. I'll sit with that. That was a weird thing to say. I don't know. It was just like, I just think that there's so much of what you're saying that even though it's not relatable to other people, because not everybody was fundamentalist, it's just so relatable. Like there's just been so many things that you said that I'm like, me too, me too, me too. Especially even in the ways that I feel like in trying to be sexual, I still suppressed my own sexuality.
Because you're trying to fit into a box of what you thought sexual was, based on society, based on male gaze, based on the patriarchy, and all these other things.
And I really remember like feeling the power of sexual interest. And it's like the first power I felt in the world.
Yes, I remember that even growing up in fundamentalism. I'll tell you a creepy story, but I'll tell you how I felt like I was powerful. I remember I was 16. I hit puberty late. 16, I grew 6 inches, filled out, got my boobs, everything. And I remember we were going to a 4th of July party, and I was on my way out the door, and my mom calls me back inside, and I'm like, what now? And she literally just started feeling my boobs. And I was like, what's going on? And she was like, sorry, Dad thought you stuffed your bra because he didn't think your boobs were that big. And I was like, why was Dad looking at my boobs? But then I was also like, well, kind of his job to make sure I'm not defrauding other men, right? So he has to like check and make sure first. And I remember having this power of like, wait, but if they look that way, that means the other boys at the party could be looking at me and like, maybe they'd like what they see. And then I felt bad for having that. I was like, oh my God, I have the ability to send these boys to hell if they look at me too long. But like, that's also some power. Yes. And I don't have any other power.
That is pretty cool. That's kind of cool. I get that. And I do. And then it's like, okay, well, if I'm going to get this power and I want to wield it, I want to know all of the tricks. So even though in some ways, like, okay, was that just, it might not have been just totally self-centered in exploring my own desire and what just fed me. In some ways it was, because what was really feeding me was power.
Yeah.
And I did want to know how to send the boys to hell.
Well, so oftentimes women don't have power outside of that. And so even though in so many ways women's sexuality is co-opted by media and billboards and ads and all these different things, at the same time, so many times women don't have any power but that. Women have literally used their sensuality and sexuality to win a war or something. I keep hitting this microphone.
I know. What was her name? The one that there was a Jewish one who does that, and she like.
Are you talking about Deborah?
Sure. Am I talking about Deborah?
Well, in the Old Testament, there's a story of Deborah who like invited a man into her tent and like cooked for him and has him there, and then like lured him to sleep. And while he's sleeping, drove a tent peg through his head.
And he was also
he was like the
general commander
the general
of
like the other army.
war.
Yeah.
I remember reading that story.
So many times women have not had any power beyond their sexuality.
Yeah. I think that is just, I remember, it's so funny because I'm like, I don't remember a lot of my religious studies, but I remember that story.
Yeah, it's hard to forget
that was a good one. I was like, and I do think you're offered, the Madonna or the whore. And I always remember being like, whore. But now I'm like, Madonna. Like, I'm like, oh.
I would like to be a Madonna presenting whore.
You want to be a Madonna presenting whore. So you want to live your life as a whore, but for people to see you and be like, Madonna?
Well, I don't want to be judged when people first see me because unfortunately women are so judged based on their sexuality. I want to be so in tune with myself and I want to be having fun and I want to be carefree. But like, I don't want people to look at me and judge me off of that when they first see me.
Okay.
If we're posing this as a question, you have to have one or the other. I'm like, why not both?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think too, it's funny because like you end up in some ways, like for me, I ended up living both. Like, like one day, if you end up doing the motherhood thing, you got a baby on your hip and you're just like, oh, I'm Madonna now. Yeah. Like it's happened. And I was also just looking at the Virgin Mary at my local Mexican shop and just really like, it's also a vagina like that.
Yeah.
She's a vagina. She's kind of a really cool visual symbol of vulva. And I'm not sure why. It was definitely, it could not have been unintentional. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like her robe is like the folds of the labia. Do you know anything about that? Why did they do that?
I have no idea.
There's gotta be a reason, right? It can't.
Here's the thing that I think about so often when I was growing up, and even society and culture tells us that men are visual creatures and women are not. And I remain so firmly convinced that that is not the case because number one, have you ever seen a bachelor pad?
Yeah.
That was not designed by a visual creature. Number two, women tend to, statistically generally, care more about fashion and hygiene and presentation. And women would notice this with Mary's robe. And guess who wouldn't? All the men that designed it.
But research has shown that when it comes to porn.
Yeah.
men are more visually stimulated or visually aroused, and women can sometimes be more auditory, but also visual is still effective. But
I also think that's because there's so much more to experience on a full like spectrum than just visual.
Yeah.
If you're tying an emotional connection and all these other things with it, it's a much fuller experience than just seeing something and being stimulated.
Yeah, I really wish too that we were talking more about smells. Maybe the boys can learn a little bit more about the smells that matter.
Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you feel bad for Ethan? Like,
I feel...
Ethan's your ex, by the way.
Ethan's my ex.
Who was raised in this household that was very toxic, but then also did a lot of harm to you.
I feel... It's actually funny because I feel like grief can encompass so much. Mm-hmm. When I look at the end of my marriage to him, I feel grieved for myself because of who he became, which is an abusive, misogynistic man.
And I even feel bad, like there was no should there, like.
No, he literally threatened to shoot my friends that believe differently than him because he was so upset at me deconstructing and changing my worldview. I feel so much empathy and sympathy for young Ethan. I think of who I met, who was a 16-year-old boy who was very sheltered, and
he's younger than you?
We were both 16
when we met. Oh, you were both
met.
16 when you met.
We were both 16 when we met. It wasn't until we had started like courting to get married that he told me that he had lost a sibling in childhood. I had no idea about this, and all of a sudden it was like, oh, I see this sadness that you carry. Yeah. And I see this family that you've come from, and I see these limitations you have from it. You don't even have an education, like a proper education. And I feel very sad for that younger version of him. I came from the same world. So 5 years later, when we were going our separate ways, I don't feel the same sympathy for that person. He took all those experiences and said, I'm not going to give up the patriarchy in this world because it benefits me, and became abusive.
Do you feel like he's literally actually said that? Or you mean like he knows, like he knows, he understands that it's patriarchy and that he's in power.
He knows that he benefits from it. He just doesn't think that women are men's equals.
I do. Maybe it's because I think pitying people is actually kind of cruel. Like I do feel bad for him. I feel like maybe it's just easier for me to feel that way than to just hate or something.
Yeah.
But like I see all of these men and I don't know. I think it's also because like I hope that they would be bothered that I feel bad for them. Like, oh.
I don't think he would.
They don't think they would?
I don't think he would. I can only speak for him because I was married to him. I just know that the more...
Well, I really don't like who he is.
No, I don't like who he became. He became an abusive man who furthers the patriarchy for his own benefit, doesn't think that women are equal to men. I don't like the last version of him that I saw at all, which is kind of the alt-right pipeline that he fell down, and that's the trajectory that he has continued on with his life. But I feel really sad for the 18-year-old that I started courting.
Yeah, I feel sad and angry that for the existence of like that ilk of, it's not just men. There's lots of women who hold that up and are causing harm because they have been harmed. Yeah. And I think probably because I'm privileged and have not had a lot of these experiences, like, I don't know. I feel like I see the whole system and not just the individual, and end up just feeling really sad about the whole thing instead of angry, which is, I don't know if one is better. I think it's probably really important that there are some people who feel fucking angry and some people who feel sad.
I think there are people who create change in
different ways. And there's probably people who both. I agree. I think like it's so important to like punch on society. Well, I'm using the language of punch. There's some people who are punching through boundaries, and then there's some people who maybe are more focused on healing. But it's funny because I'm a puncher.
Both create change.
Yeah, both create change, and they're both really important. And I don't think one is better, but I think it's really valid if somebody is like, I am one.
Yeah.
And I want that person to be fully that one if they're that one.
If that is the way that you compartmentalize experiences and dissect them and formulate a plan to do different, then I'm here for it.
I just think IRL though, I would probably be I yell at my dad a lot.
Listen,
not that I don't know.
Listen,
and then I think
there have been times things in my life have happened. I'm like, if I could yell at my dad right now, that'd be really healing.
My dad literally just emailed me today being like, I am so proud of you.
Aww.
So yeah, my dad's done a lot of healing. My dad's like, I'm really proud of my father. But I don't know. It's still in my book. Like it's still like, it's a word for good boy sometimes. But, to email your daughter and say you're proud is still really just great.
Yeah.
Really, really lovely.
That makes me really happy for you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, he's been doing lots of good therapy. It's great.
We love that.
We
for
love
him.
that. You want to know what else I love for him? Yes, I mean, like my parents got divorced, and that's really where I feel like change began. Mm-hmm. And while I think that sucks, like that so much harm had to be somebody really needed to hold him accountable.
Yeah.
I think for so many people, they get divorced and then their husbands actually become better people. And that's got to be really hard to watch.
Yeah, because you're like, oh my God, why couldn't you do this while we were together?
Well, what's interesting? I've seen Ethan's new lady. It's a little confusing to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a little because Ethan's new lady seems even more fiery and sexual. Like, I don't know. I'm making judgments based on clips,
Yeah. I mean,
but she does not seem She does not seem.
I will say, so growing up in such a regimented, strict world when it comes to sex, a lot of men come out of that experience looking a little bit like a pervert.
Yeah. That makes sense to me.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. Like my older brothers, I don't want to hang out with them. Their energy is creepy to me because the way that they look at women is perverted. And my ex is the same way. So when I see the girl that he chose, I'm like, this makes sense. Someone who is very outwardly sexually presenting based on, societal structure, right? So dress and all these kinds of things, but is totally fine being passive and more submissive to him, whether it's her personality or what she thinks she needs to do. It makes so much sense to me. It's exactly what he wanted with a submissive woman that I was never going to be.
Submissive.
Well, she doesn't really have her own thoughts outside of him.
Yeah. And again, I'm not. So now who are you? Where are you at? Are you dating? Are you seeing somebody?
I am. Yeah. I think also being in a healthy relationship now has helped me put words to so many of my previous experiences now that I know what it's like to be loved well.
Yeah, that's really nice.
Especially through healing. And even my...
Does he come from a similar background?
No. And I thought for so long that I needed to date somebody from my background so they would understand me and get me. And then I realized that empathy is universal.
Anybody can, as long as he's willing to listen.
He doesn't have to come from my background to say, that really sucks and I'm really sorry. Take whatever time you need to work through it and I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. And I didn't think that was possible outside of the world that I came in. I was like, they're going to have to understand this part of me. But he understands me.
That's really
without
nice.
having to had the same experiences.
I'm just so happy for you that you found somebody and are having all these experiences and knowing. I really think you're going to end up really happy. I think you're going to be so...
I already am.
You already are. You already fucking are. You're so clear in who you keep, you seem so clear in who you are. I think you know yourself really well.
I think I know myself as I am, and I just want to remain open to who I'm going to become.
Yeah. Yeah. Hell yeah. Fuck yeah. I feel like that's so great. We're always going to change. And I mean, that's definitely been... It's hard getting older and loving yourself in your 20s and re-loving yourself in your 30s and in other parts of your life where it changes. And a lot of the things I used to love about my life, I don't have the same time and bandwidth to engage with. I feel like there's a lot there, and I'm still figuring myself out and still falling in love with myself all the time. Remember when I was like, I think you're going to be happy, and you were like, I am. That was like, I don't know. It was very shiny. It was really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What is one thing you want to tell all the fundy girls? Like if there was like, if you can go back in time, sorry, this is not an exit. I just like, if you can go back in time and talk to your 13-year-old self, what would you want her to know?
For me specifically, if I was talking to 13-year-old me, I would probably tell her that all of the things that she's passionate about and loves and wants to know more about and wants to do, those are not side quests until she reaches completion through having a partner. Those are things that are worth pursuing and doing and excelling at, or discarding if you don't enjoy it, moving on to the next. Like all of those are part of you to explore. And I feel like it's pretty much where I am in life now, right? I travel almost full time for work and for fun, and it's what I've always been passionate about, is learning about people and having conversations and seeing the world through eyes that are not my own. And I thought that maybe that would just be something I did till I was married, when I finally like reached.
Like you needed to get married first, and then
or it was
like,
more like I enjoy these little things like photography and traveling and stuff, but I'm just going to do that until I get married, because that's when my life starts. And I got married and I got divorced, and I realized my life started again. And I'll probably have kids in the future. My life will start again. Like there's always just, you don't reach something in your life is suddenly complete.
I love that it's starting again. I definitely almost felt the opposite. I was like, I'm going to get married and have kids, and my life is going to end. You have to like, I have to make space for, not my business and not all of these very like kind of self-centered things that have really pushed me forward. And I love like just really thinking about all these, like something new is beginning versus, also something is ending, and you grieve, and you also, it's like when you leave middle school and go to high school, it's like, or like leave high school to go to college. It's like so exciting, and also can be a little sad too at the same time.
I think every beginning requires an ending.
I think every beginning,
and I would just rather look forward.
Yeah. I also, again, just thought that advice was like, not just for fundy, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I think that is great advice. And thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing and being so authentic. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me here. I appreciate it. This was such a fun conversation.
It was?
Yeah.
Yay.